All right, I'm just pulling up the agenda. Did anyone watch the product analytics video? I made it through half last night on 2x, and then I had something else come up, but I highly recommend it if you haven't yet, just to kind of see how that team's thinking about dashboards. Tim Zalman kind of is walking through building out one in real time. And it's a really different setup than I was picturing in my mind, because they're using an external repo and code and YAML to structure the dashboards. There's some interesting concepts though around versioning because of the repo and because of like essentially every MR is a snapshot in time to the layout of the board or whatever else. It's kind of cool, very technical, but I could kind of see where they're going and with the flexibility of it. So add it to your watch list for the new year, or if you're still here for a while, or a few more days. Okay, I went through just and added an MR to update our dates and make them official, so I linked that there. I just took them from what we agreed on in the last meeting and added them to the handbook. I also got a little carried away on Grafana UI because Justin added a list of current. He just basically linked out to Grafana from that issue, as well as eCharts. And so I just took a bit of time yesterday and was kind of going through the Grafana glossary. And it got me really excited just because of how simple it is, how simple their terminology ends up being at the end of the day. Like I just copied in their definition of a dashboard and a panel. And all they really say is a dashboard is a set of one or more panels arranged into one or more rows, which I just thought was like a brilliantly simple way to describe it. And they leave these definitions so simple that you could really kind of do anything with them, because panels are panels and then dashboards could be organized how you see fit. They also have a lot of interesting like behind the scenes stuff that I think a lot of dashboarding software has, such as setting up data sources, like whether it's a DB or an API, concepts of graphs, plugins, queries, time series. And then I didn't get enough time to go into visualization, but that's kind of what they're calling the content in the panel could be a visualization, which also is very general. Could apply to tables, could apply to a graph, could be anything really. So a diagram even. So that was kind of cool. I thought in my mind, because Grafana tracks such complex data, like you're monitoring servers and there's a lot of like nuance to it. I thought that it would be very complicated, but they've made the shell of what it is quite simple, which I really, really like. So we could maybe even take them as inspiration that potentially there's not that much that we have to really define under the hood, but we would have to align on what the words are for those things and start grouping up. But I think the top level objects are going to be fairly small. And I didn't find anywhere where they had like a filtering definition, because they were more looking at queries behind the visualization itself. And the filtering was setting that up. So I didn't really see a UI around that. But I might have missed it. I've also went through eCharts, just the example that was linked, and tried to see if there was more to it. But what it really does look like, it's just all the different ways you could do a visualization or a chart. And we have them all at our fingertips, depending on how we structure dashboards. Any of these ways of showing the data could be present in GitLab because of this library. Does that make sense to everyone else, that maybe like the eCharts is like a content format versus truly dashboarding?
I'm kind of following.
Yeah.
It seems like a little bit of a separate thing. If it's talking about org charts, but I don't know, that's just my take.
When you say org charts, what do you mean?
Oh, I thought that's what you said, in terms of,
Oh, did I said it
maybe I
could be a
misheard.
chart. I think I
Okay.
just said a chart. So in GitLab, you want to visualize something, you could do an embed with one of these ways, right? One of these renders on the data. Whether you want it to show as a scatter or a time plot or a bar graph or a pie chart, all of those things, pictorial bars. I
Yeah,
think
e-charts. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Ihan.
Yeah, the way I see e-charts is it's all the potential different ways that we have to display data. It still needs to be curated and wrapped in our UI library, GitLab UI, but that is a fairly simple and straightforward task. And we know what we have here in e-charts we can use. So there is a little bit of work to it. It's not like the caveat is not as simple as just, I want that and it's immediately there.
Yes.
But it is still straightforward.
Do we have any of those currently in our GitLab UI that have been used?
Yeah, we do. We have a line chart, for example. I'll add a link to our storybook.
Okay. The line charts. So maybe part of this definition might be, this is an option. We have one example, and then kind of just defining maybe how those end up fitting in with all the other definitions.
Yeah, we have quite a bit of stock. We have area bar.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Chart legend. Well, that's part of charts gauge chart, heat map, single stats, sparkline chart, column chart. So yeah, but it would be good still to, I guess, have an idea of, take stock of what we can, like what we currently support, and see if there's any future need that we can already map out for what other charts we would like to import, so we can kind of get those into the pipeline and have them ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you say mapping them, do you mean, so we're taking, Amelia already went through on all of the regions on all the current existing dashboards, but at some point we would have to kind of review the content of each one.
Exactly.
And maybe see if it maps to one.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, so that could be another part of this. I don't know how I have missed this, even like PMing foundations. I guess I'm always looking at our core components, the migrations, or I didn't scroll down enough to see regions, type scales, utilities, directives, and charts. This is cool. Okay. So I feel like, because there was a question of could we also kind of, Grafana is all of observability, right? So could we map to the Go, they have a thing called Go UI they're using, which is essentially Grafana. I feel like if we keep our definitions simple enough, no matter what we call them on the GitLab side, they could map over to such a simple system on the Grafana side, or we could adopt the namings from it if we like those names, like dashboard and panel. That's all that that's the main core of their whole product.
Yeah, I'd probably vote for just adopting them, since we're fairly close already.
Yeah.
Like, for example, in product analytics, we only have one difference, and that's between widgets and panels. But I know that panels and widgets is already a contentious word, because some groups are already using panels. So if Grafana is doing it, it's their bread and butter. It makes sense to follow suit.
Yeah, I was looking for the word widget over there and I didn't find it. So, and with your team, are widgets inside of a panel?
No, so widgets are the panel. I guess
Okay.
widgets are you could say more of a legacy term, because
Okay.
it's what everything used to be called on a dashboard. So anyone that's familiar with like WordPress or whatever will know. But yeah, I mean, panel also makes perfect sense.
Okay. So yeah, maybe we could start the draft with those as kind of the proposed terms, because they seem
Yeah,
fairly simple.
no, I can take that forward to the product analytics group and see if we have like all thumbs up, but I don't foresee any issues. We're still in like pre-alpha, so change is cheap right now.
Yeah. And Ihan, you're on that team, right? Or wait, yeah, you're on the
Yeah,
product analytics. So
yeah,
you're the
product
one
analytics.
helping with what Tim was demoing with
Yeah,
YAML, all of that. Okay. Cool. So I think the takeaway from the exploration of Grafana would be we like those two simple terms as a starting point. We could also talk about the word visualization, if that is something that rings true for us, or if we want to think of something else, such as content or something that's more generic.
so product analytics is once again using visualizations. It's actually something I suggested after we went through a series of words, each
Yeah.
one not fitting encapsulating everything that a panel or a widget could hold, for example, because a chart isn't like the right word because it could be a table. You can't call it, yeah, it needs to encapsulate it that it could be a single stat, it could just be a number, it could be a table, could be a chart, could be a picture. Visualization seems to be the best fit.
Okay. So you have a vote for that too, and that's already being sort of built out in your world.
Yeah. And it makes sense working with it also, like conceptualizing what a visualization is. It makes sense working with it using those words.
Okay. I looked up the definition on the Grafana side, and they call it a graphical representation of query results.
Yeah, that's exactly what we in the product analytics group use it for.
Okay. That's cool. I love hearing that there's already overlap between those two huge, massive areas of progression on dashboards. But I think that's going to make things a lot more simple. I guess I haven't really wrapped my head around all those other dashboards or how many other alternates there are, though, in the GitLab world that may have a different term.
I think the term for a lot of the other dashboards aren't as critical necessarily. Because, for example, it matters more in the design phase. And once you start building it, we're just using, for example, a table or static components, aka like the panels that were placed. But for something like a customizable dashboard that users and customers need to interact with, now the naming starts becoming quite important, because you need to explain those concepts to a user in a way that they can understand it and then use the customizable system to build their own dashboards.
Okay. And when you say tables are static components, you're referencing, for example, something like the user can't interact with it. We kind of built that out. Maybe it's like a latest
it's
activity,
like hard-coded.
Yeah, or something like that. And
for example, like something that's, optimize, or like the compliance dashboard that we currently have, it's static code that the user can only see and click on stuff, but they can't move anything around. Nothing is dynamic.
Right. Okay. So editability brings, the user stories around editing or interacting or changing queries, or the core data behind it, is where things become more important to understanding what you can do with it.
And if I had to guess, that's also why Grafana put this out there, their glossary, so that they can help their users understand better, how to build a dashboard.
Yes. Okay. So I think that's a good model to follow. And we're already kind of like, that's what we want to do, is just get a list. I like how simple theirs is in definition. And I think we could get there with ours fairly quickly. Maybe we'll see where we end up. the last one was Sisense is being used. So I referenced just the link to it that Justin posted. It's just really going to the main internal Sisense UI. So nothing new there really. I'm not gonna say it out loud on the call because like this is going to YouTube, but I did put a little note there of I don't know if that's common knowledge or not, but anyways, I think that we'll be okay to not analyze that particular license right now and just it's got a lot of complexity, but unless someone feels that that is important to do, we could also look at what they call things. I think it was a hard system to use internally, and it was harder to build queries and things like that. So I don't know if it's the best to model our web app after. That's just my opinion. So if anyone else feels strongly about it, for sure, we could do an analysis on their glossary or their panels or how they're calling things. So let's leave that one for now. If someone feels strongly though, they can speak up, and same in the channel or because we're async. If anyone watches this, they can decide to jump on it. The next item I added was an interesting discovery, and maybe everyone else knew this, but we do already have the term widgets in our docs. It's used by the work items that are being built out. There's custom fields on an issue, for example, health status. And I think they're going to do other ones down the line. Like maybe there could be a widget that would like sum all of the weights in an epic or give you some kind of output that's different just from a normal column. And so they've decided to call it a widget. I wanted to highlight that there could be some confusion if we start using that term too between those. Did everyone already know that? I learned it this week. Okay, what do we think is the best way to formalize Amelia's work into a definition list? So similar to just, and same with, I think, Grafana, everything, like, should I just start an issue where we kind of start just writing into the description with headers, like areas that we've already like learned or defined or counted? Or should we start in a Google Doc where we've just got fluidity of defining, like if she found so many different uses of different terms around regions, I feel we have to bring it over into text at some point so we can start like choosing definitions or start working on what we call them.
Depending on the amount of data, if it's a lot, I would go with what Dana suggested in a previous call, which is using maybe Google Sheets. Easy to collaborate with and makes it easy to work with a lot of data. But yeah, if it's simple enough that we can put in an issue and we're not going to change it every 5 seconds, then yeah, that would also work.
I would agree with that as well.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we can structure it kind of like competitive analysis where you have like features down the side or something and like uses, either dashboards at GitLab across the top or with some kind of crossover between the two. Okay, I'm going to just create a sheet and share it here. Dashboard working group. Definition sheet. Okay, I'll post the link here. Hopefully everyone would have access. And we could have multiple tabs, yeah, like you mentioned, so we could have different ways of looking at these things. Does anyone feel they want to take that on, transferring some of Amelia's content into as a start? I could do Grafana.
What's the timeline for when we want this? Because yeah, a lot of us, I'm guessing, will
Yeah,
be off
same.
in the next
I'm
week or
done
two.
too. I think our next deadline is January 10th. That's to get out of investigation into definition. And so I guess to be able to do definition, I think we should probably just have all the instances transferred into the sheet. So I'm thinking for me, I'll probably work on it when I get back. So like January 4th, 5th, 6th ish, and just try to get a bunch of terms in there grouped up in some way and not do it now, like not over the holidays. I'm off from tomorrow until Jan 3rd.
Yeah, it sounds almost like we can crowdsource this come start of January.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, maybe the first week back in the channel, we'll just say, hey, everyone, go dump your terms into the sheet and make sure, like I could even look at Amelia's and see how far I can get with it. And then she could check it. Well, I'm looking at your thing. Yeah, that's the wrong date.
Yeah, I was like, that's
I just surprised you
after
all.
the working group is over.
Thank you for that.
What is the correct date? I can update it quickly.
So we're talking about discovery. I believe that would be, yeah, I said investigation in the MR. So investigation is 2023, January 10th.
Okay.
Is this correct though? I'm really thinking through this. Map all the pieces. I might have written that wrong. I'm gonna go back through. How did I mess that up? Let me look down. We had, okay, yeah, the 10th. So 3 days later was the proposed map all the pieces. That's the 13th. That gives us 3 days to make sure that they're all in. Let's leave it for right now, but that is kind of a short turnaround between those two phases. We might want to give ourselves at least another week in between those.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to go move it. I'm going to move it. I'll do an MR and just move it to 1 more week back.
Okay.
So that would make it Jan. Yeah, like I'll go for the 17th. Wait, the the 20th. Okay, January 20th. And I'll just double check with everyone. But this is going to be kind of fluid, I think, once we get them in. So I'm going to change the second phase to Jan 20th.
Okay, I added a note that you're making this change.
Cool. I'm going to add myself a to-do here too. Okay. I think I double posted about the product analytics YAML because I did it earlier in the week and then I wrote one at the top. So that one we've already talked about. But Yihan, are there any concepts in your world that haven't been captured in the current mapping that you've seen?
For mapping the regions, no. I think everything is captured. In terms of going further into like the smaller details and some of the nomenclature, like do we use Grafana and stuff? I think that will come out in the sheets also.
Okay. Yeah, and you had like configuring as verbs, I think, like configuring the data sources underneath that we're running the data to.
Yeah. So a lot of those words are like work in progress because we're also figuring out like what to call it internally. But if there's any like question marks, like I said, hopefully the sheet will like come together and pick a good name and put it on the sheet.
Okay, cool. Nice. So I think we can end now and get a bit of time back today, unless anyone else had anything else on their mind they wanted to talk about. I'll be out for the next one. I'm back in early Jan, so I don't know if anyone's planning to go to the one on the holidays. I didn't look at the event yet, but we'll see.
I thought I saw that you canceled the one.
Oh,
on the
maybe I
28th.
did. Yeah.
Which I think is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Party.
Yeah.
It would probably be one person if maybe.
Yeah.
Not worth it. Okay, so we'll see everyone back in early Jan. I'm really excited after looking at Grafana because I thought it was a beast. So I think we're going to get into some really good alignment discussions in the new year. Cool. Thanks, everybody. Happy holidays.
Same to you all. Bye.